Hello, my name is Angelina Stokes, and this is my presentation on Blaxploitation and stereotypes in Black cinema. Today, we're going to be looking at what that means and also the intersection between those two throughout my findings and how they may have supported or worked against each other throughout the films I'm going to be referencing. Starting off with my thesis, we really just observe how blaxploitation, kind of merged and how it works with or against the black stereotypes that are also seen in these films. So for some historical context, what is blaxploitation? Um, the whole reason why I feel like it mattered to begin with is because for a long time, Hollywood had portrayed Black characters as either servants, comical relief in a lot of films. They a lot of the times were criminals or otherwise like the antagonist of a film or just overall background characters. Blaxploitation placed those Black characters in the center for foreground of the story and made them important. So that's why black exploitation is important and have value, particularly for this context and the meaning of my project. So looking at the different films, I took a list. I was looking at IMBD's top 50 black exploitation movies, and I just took the top five movies from that list. Those were also five movies I had taken time to watch over the summer. These movies are quite remarkable for their strong box office success and influence in Hollywood studios. These movies also primarily appeal to Black audiences. However, like in the eyes of critics, they were seen as controversial. So I thought it would be interesting to pick out these movies to be the main focus on these project. I also feel like these movies do a really good job of overall representing like Black Utopian movie theme and genre as a whole. So I really like these movies, and I'm very excited to take a more personal look into these movies. Going on to the positive representation, um, each of these films featured protagonists who overall were very strong-willed and knew about themselves very well. For example, for the movie Shaft, we had an independent detective who answers to no one. The movie Foxy Brown, we saw a strong woman seeking justice. For the Coffee movie, we saw a nurse who fights drug dealers and corrupt politicians, basically fighting both sides of evil. And then in Sweetback, we saw a character who escapes police brutality while also resisting oppression. So those are very strong willed individuals and very, very strong concepts to kind of wrap your head around. And these movies, I feel like, especially by the directors, had a very good job of making those stories entertaining while also appealing at the same time. Now looking into some of the stereotypes that we'll see throughout these movies, although the movies are empowering, these films also relied on stereotypes to build the character's personality. Unfortunately, that is a common thing we see throughout Blaxtopian, and I just thought that was a very interesting interception to kind of observe today. Then if we look into our film examples again, um, through like character building in a more positive light, like we see like very positive kind of attributes like intelligence, and our characters were usually highly respected. But then we deal with stereotypes like um, hypermasculinity and womanizers. We look at people who glamorize drug dealing and also reinforce like the criminal black image, which is not very positive. We see this again as we continue to look at our film examples as well. I definitely wanted to like shout out again Foxy Brown because it's like it's a very cool movie and we see a woman controlling the narrative and seeking justice for herself. However, how can we even focus on that when we're looking at the sexualized costumes and they're wearing almost nothing? Like it kind of defeats the purpose of having a woman who is the narrative, who is the moment, and things like that. So going on to the cultural and aesthetic analysis of the movie, throughout the movies we see because it was 70s, um, around 70s decades where a lot of these movies were coming out. We see a lot of music that includes funk and soul. We hear a lot of Curtis Mayfield and Isaac Hayes as well. Then going into costumes. Oh, sorry. Looking at the music definitely reinforces Black pride and urban identity throughout those movies. And then looking into the costumes, like with the leather and the afros, bright fashion, I feel like they definitely represent some kind of confidence and exude a lot of cultural pride. Not mentioned on the page, but I also wrote notes about like the dialogue we see in a lot of these movies with like street language, also known as AAVE, as some people would call it. I feel like that creates some type of authenticity about like the Black culture and things like that. And I'm glad like the way the movies were written and the way that the characters spoke, it wasn't just like Black characters saying white people words, right? And then looking into the settings as well, we're looking at how our urban neighborhoods usually will reflect poverty, discrimination, while at the same time, like just reflecting community and resilience as well. Looking at the social political commentary of these movies, um, of course, these films were meant to like represent a lot of the real issues and like a lot of the common issues that happened in the 1970s. For example, Sweet Sweetbacks portrays a police officer as oppressive, okay, rather than heroic. And that's something I'd see a lot in cartoons growing up as a kid. um, Cartoons that were particularly directed towards the white audience, police officers were always the heroes and they always fixed everything. But in these movies, police officers weren't always the good guys, they were oppressive. And in Superfly, we see how the economic inequality pushes some people towards illegal opportunities and like doing the wrong thing. Um, and then also the movie Coffee exposes corruption in politics and law enforcement as well. So I think it's very, very interesting seeing the social political commentary of the movies because it shows that like shit is not always sweet. Excuse my language. So just tying it all together, I want to definitely hit the nail in the coffin by explaining how these two concepts have some type of intersections, especially between these movies. Um, the stereotypes are complicated, and like the movement, especially like movements in the 1970s to push that our Black culture to the foreground and make sure that we're seen. Um, the stereotypes are complicated because they empowered the audience while sometimes reinforces negative preconceptions among mainstream viewers as well. Some of the lasting impacts that we've seen can still be seen today. This that specific film, Blaxtopian. Sorry, I said it wrong. Hold on. The specific genre of blaxploitation has a overall very positive impact. I feel like in Black film, in Black cinema, particularly by how many talented artists that it inspired, such as Spike Lee and John Singleton. And not to mention, like, no matter what you said, they create this film genre created so many Black heroes that may not be mainstream now, but were once mainstream and continue to support our Black heroes that we have today. Um, And as far as like a negative legacy, it reinforced stereotypes, unfortunately. And then also, so one thing I often reference is that it commercializes Black culture, I feel like. But that comes with the territory of putting Black people at the forefront. We become commercialized. That's not necessarily new. In conclusion, this genre very much transformed Black cinema by placing us in the center of stories during a period where Hollywood never thought to do so. Films like the one we looked at today challenge racial exclusion through strong Black protagonists and culturally authentic storytelling. Thank you. I spent a lot of time on this project and a lot of time watching these movies. So I thank you for sticking through and watching to the end of my project. Until next time, this has been Angelina Stokes, and I'll see you later. Bye.